What is good, YouTube? Quinn Wade basketball analysis coming to y'all with a quick video. We're gonna talk about the Clippers getting clipped off by the Utah Jazz, and they lost exactly the way I thought they would. The Utah Jazz started getting hot from three. They rolled Donovan Mitchell, who has been their hub and everything that they do the last couple years on offense when they didn't have Mike Conley. The difference is he was more confident, more efficient than he usually be in the playoff game, especially when he's the primary focus because Conley wasn't out there. I think that it was fun to see Donovan Mitchell look at it like we have to win this game. We at home. I can take over and score whenever I want to. I feel like Donovan Mitchell always felt that he can do that, but reality was he never was able to consistently do it, especially in the playoffs. And he's been doing it so far, especially against the Grizzlies, being able to score and pass and rebound a little bit more, completing his game out a little bit more than he was before. But he was young. He was learning the game. The game started slowing down, and he has more bags and tools and armory in his closet now. And I like to see his game more fleshed out. And then now here he is, and it's been pretty impressive for him. This team is a legitimate threat to win it all. This team has everything you need. They have the veterans, they have the shooting, they have the inside presence, the defense, the communication, the unity, the coaching, the adjustments that can be made. And, you know, they have guys that can make plays outside of Donovan Mitchell. And that's why I was a big advocate of the Conley trade. And we seeing that Conley was the third All Star on this team, and we seen that Jordan Clarkson, another person that I advocated for when they picked him up, and since he's been in the league, he's the sixth man of the year for this team. So he even became better than what he has ever been, and it has been with the Jazz the last 2 years, and that's another great sign. He was big, hitting some threes and stuff to keep them in the game and allowed them to have a legitimate shot of winning the game, and they was able to bring it home. The Clippers still have some problems. I think that they give away a lot of games. I feel like a lot of games they should definitely be able to seal or win, and they continue to find ways to lose them. They continue to find ways to not steal them. And if you want to win the championship, every game and every win matters. And I feel like the Clippers gets on the verge of a game and they can never really close it out. Either Paul George doesn't come through or Kawhi Leonard for some reason doesn't come through, which is crazy because we know Kawhi Leonard for taking over. We know Kawhi Leonard for being dominant, especially in the playoffs. And this playoffs just hasn't been that. You know, even last year in the bubble, the Denver series, a game seven, and Kawhi Leonard just isn't there. We watched game one against Dallas. Kawhi Leonard just couldn't make shots. And then he has a game where he makes everything in the fourth. And if they got that Kawhi Leonard consistently, this team would literally be a championship contender, especially because Paul George is a guy that has fleshed out his game a little bit with his passing and scoring. And being able to attack the rim a little bit more than he usually does, especially coming off that injury to his lower foot a couple years ago. He has been different. But if they're not going to be excellent defensively, they're going to have to be the offensive team that they was throughout the entire regular season. And we only see that in splats. Like you'll see it in one game when the Clippers look absolutely unbeatable, and then you will see a game where they're in it, but they just can't bring it home. And it got to be frustrating for Clippers fans just because these are the games that you pay Kawhi Leonard and Paul George to win. They post a lot down defensively, which we have seen them do, even in the last series where they was disruptive, they was active, they was communicating, they was switching everything, and they looked it beautiful and they looked it amazing. But they wasn't able to do it for the whole 48 minutes, or they wasn't able to do it throughout the entire series, and that's why it went seven. And that's something that you look at where you can't do that against the best teams. You can't do that against the best coaches, and you can't do that against the best players. You know, they're going to find ways to make sure they on your neck, and they're going to take it because they either won a championship already or they're hungry enough for one. And you would think that hunger will come more out of the Clippers, where they had a lot of people bigging them up and giving them, the trophy before they even won it last year. And now everybody's talking trash about them. Everybody's disrespecting them. Everybody's calling them these different names throughout the whole team. And people even calling them pretenders this year. And you would think that they would be on the mission. And then you watch these last two series so far, and it looks like the Clippers really don't know who they are and what they are and what they should be doing. And it's a little bit frustrating for me because I am a guy that believes in Paul George, and I never really disrespected Paul George as a man or as a player like other fans have done, and how far they have took it because he had another performance that gives them a reason to. And even Kawhi Leonard, I always backed him up. I always looked at him as a great two-way player, and he showed that even against the Dallas series that he can still active old cyborg mode, where he can tear up, steal, take anything while also being a good help and rotation defender. And then you see games where he's not guarding the best player, or he's not fighting, or he's not taking a challenge, or he's not even fighting over screen so that way they can't switch him off and just help them drain more clock for trying to get him off. And it kind of make you wonder, what is this team going to be? Like, Ty Lue was supposed to be that fierce guy that was going to challenge people, get in people's faces, and hold them accountable, and get them out of the complacency that they were set in even in the first year. And now they have changed basically everything from last year to this year, and they still have a lot of the same problems that they had with Doc Rivers, where they're playing certain guys and they're making the right adjustments, and then they're not doing it enough throughout the whole game. And then it looks like Kawhi Leonard looks human. He doesn't look like a cyborg. And that's the hardest part because he was supposed to come and bring this team to a championship. This whole franchise, this whole organization believed him. Everybody gave him credit. They fired people. They changed everything for him and gave him a lot of the players that he wanted. And now you kind of look at it and say, was it really worth it? If we don't win a championship, what was the whole point of all this? And that's going to be something that we're going to have to find out as we see how far they can go, and as this Paul George Kawhi Leonard duo works out. These guys been knowing each other for a while, have respect for each other. Both of them was in the MVP conversation at the peak of their powers, all NBA first team type of players. Not only that, these are two-way players that can guard and switch multiple positions and give trouble, and we just haven't seen their best at all together. We really haven't seen both of them clicking on the same cylinder at the same time on both ends of the court. And that's been another thing that's been frustrating about this team, too, because we know that they can do it. We know they have the personnel to do it, but they haven't been able to get it out. And even Ty Lue hasn't been able to do that either. And I kind of think that this team is just a great team. I think they're great, but they still got another level to go, and they haven't been able to reach that ever. We gave them a lot of expectation. We hyped them up a lot because what they have done individually and what the talent they had around them, and the coaches that have been championship level coaches and ones that have won it in tough series, and been able to beat other great coaches and great teams to get their championships. And they really haven't been able to get the best out of this duo, whether it's Doc Rivers or Ty Lue. And that's something to look out for if this is over within another 1 or 2 years. Because if Kawhi Leonard comes to this franchise and they don't even get to a conference finals, something that we all but guaranteed that they would do, even their first year together, and they didn't. It kind of make you wonder what's next for this duo. You pay Kawhi Leonard the money. Anybody would do that, and they already paid Paul George. But this team isn't really, to me, a lock for the finals. They're not really a lock for the conference finals, to me. And honestly, I'm not lying because I picked Utah to win this series, and they proved that they could, and they even have Conley. And even though the Clippers stayed with them, even though the Clippers stayed competitive, the Clippers didn't win the game. The Jazz did, and the Jazz didn't shoot the threes better. They didn't play the way that they normally play, and they don't have one of their biggest pieces either. And they were still able to get the W because Donovan Mitchell rose to the occasion with urgency and was able to deliver a W, where the Clippers were supposed to come in there and take that game. But that's another game that they let go that you can say. But now they only got to win 3 games against the Clippers, and the Clippers haven't even won one yet. So we're going to see how the Clippers come out. We're going to see how the Clippers play. And within this next couple games, we'll see if they were legitimate title contenders or will they fall short of winning a championship together. And then you kind of wonder, is Kawhi Leonard and Paul George enough to bring you a championship to LA? Even though the LA just won one last year, but for the Clippers in their first championship, but kind of make you wonder, will this be one of the most disappointing duos up there with other ones? But the sad part about the other ones, they at least got to the finals. The worst part about this one, they haven't even got to the conference finals yet. And that's something that we never thought would happen, but it's actually reality as we watch them play the last 2 seasons. And now we can see if they can even get that far together. But Kawhi Leonard and Paul George are really going to have to get into each other, and they're really going to have to play like a top 5, top 2 duo that we thought that they was even last year. And if not, we kind of got to give them reality check. They're not as good as we thought. They're not as good as they thought. And maybe they are pretenders. Maybe people coming at them the right way. Maybe people coming at them because what they have seen the last 2 years and they deserve these complaints. But like I said before, the playoffs not over, the series not over. They can resurrect their image. They can do what we thought that they could do last year, and they can still win it or even get to the finals. The opportunity is there. The chance is there. They got to seize it, take advantage of it, and get the job done. No excuses. And if they do, they're just going to be at the couch, just like us, watching the games. Shoulda, woulda, coulda. That don't exist because it ain't going to change because it's already been happened. And if you're trying to change shoulda, woulda, coulda, you're going to be in the same spot as them, miserable, and complaining about what could have happened, what should have happened, and it ain't going to happen because they out of the playoffs, which means it doesn't change anything. So we have to forget about the past, learn from the past, grow from the past, and make a better future. They have a chance to make a better future by getting their act together now. If not, there's going to be a duo that we look at as one of the most disappointing, one of the most overhyped, and probably one of the biggest busts uh, ever if they don't even get to a conference finals as a duo. And that's a huge thing to say. That's a huge thing to believe. But it might be reality right in front of our eyes if Utah put them out. And they have the talent, they have the scoring, they have the coaching. Now we just got to see how it plays out. But the Clippers are still in it. The Clipper can still resurrect and reframe our mind and our thinking about them by getting this series locked up and done and having a chance to go to the finals. As the team they dodged, the Lakers are gone. So if they're gone and you got past Luka, the team that you wanted to play and beat, and you did it, now we just got to see if you can put together a run and with the Larry O'Brien trophy. But if they don't, then they're going to be a disaster. And I don't know how much more you can shake up this team than getting rid of one of these 2 players. And we know they're going to keep Kawhi, but what are you going to really get for Paul George since he just signed that huge extension and hasn't played up to it so far? Even though he had a better season to me this year, he hasn't really been dominant on both ends of the court enough in the playoffs to merely make them look like a team I believe that can win it all. And this is coming from a guy that picked the Jazz to win this series, even though they might not have Mike Conley for a couple games. That makes it even worse for the Clippers if they don't win. But there's going to be some more reconstruction being done. And we have to see what Steve Ballmer chooses to do with this team and with his duo. Other than that, let me know what you agree or disagree with, who you got winning this series, who you think going to win the next game. And Quinn Wade, Basketball Analysis, signing out. And I'll be back hopefully with another video tomorrow. Enjoy your day.